his body.
This is unacceptable. We need to address this immediately.
The office hummed with its usual sterile efficiency, the clack of keyboards and muted phone rings creating a rhythm only employees could follow. Eleanor Grant, the CEO of Grant Enterprises, leaned back in her sleek leather chair, eyes scanning the quarterly reports on her tablet, cold, calculated, ruthless in her decisions. The kind of boss who inspired respect and fear in equal measure. Then the door swung open. "Good morning, sir." Ma'am," muttered Thomas Hale, the new secretary, a middle-aged man with slightly disheveled hair, a worn suit, and eyes that hinted at a life far from boardrooms and corporate ladders. Single dad, recently hired, clueless about office politics, but determined to make a good impression. Eleanor's icy gaze landed on him. She lifted a brow. "You're late." Thomas flinched. I got stuck in traffic. Very unusual, ma'am." She didn't answer. Instead, she gestured to the empty chair across from her desk. "Sit and try not to make a mess." From the moment he sat, it was clear that Thomas had a natural awkwardness about him. He shuffled papers, dropped a pen and muttered, "Sorry," 3 times before she even opened her mouth. Eleanor, who had zero patience for incompetence, sighed audibly. Yet, despite the rocky start, there was something disarming about him. Not in a corporate sense, he wasn't polished or confident, but human, genuine. "Your first task," Eleanor said sharply, "is to schedule my meetings for the day and double-check the investor's briefing. Don't make mistakes." "Yes, ma'am," Thomas replied, fumbling with his notebook. In his mind, he repeated, "Don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass your daughter either." Maya, his 7-year-old, had been the reason he pushed for this job. A stable paycheck, better hours, maybe a future she could rely on. But right now, as he tripped over the scanner cord, he wondered if he'd ever survive a day in Eleanor's world. By mid-morning, Eleanor's reports had piled up faster than she expected. She needed something printed urgently. "Hale," she called without looking up. "The Johnson report now." Thomas bolted to the printer, but in his nervousness, he sent the wrong file. When he handed it over, Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "This isn't it." "I'm so sorry. I must have—" Eleanor cut him off. "Do it again, carefully. You cannot mess this up." Flustered, Thomas took a deep breath. He could feel the tension building in the room like electricity. Yet, as he worked silently, Eleanor noticed something unusual. His hands moved deliberately, methodically, despite the flustered expression. There was a steadiness there, a quiet determination, and beneath the awkwardness, a kind of charm she couldn't quite place. Hours passed. Meetings came and went. Phone calls, emails, crises. Eleanor navigated all with the same icy composure. Thomas stumbled occasionally, but every time he somehow recovered. By lunchtime, Eleanor had started observing him more than correcting him. She caught him glancing nervously at his watch, likely thinking about Maya, and then straightening his tie with a mixture of pride and stress. Finally, in a rare quiet moment, Eleanor leaned back and addressed him. "Hale, why did you take this job? It's unusual for someone your age." Thomas blinked. He wasn't sure she wanted a personal answer, but honesty came naturally. "I have a daughter. I want her to have stability. I'm not great at corporate stuff, but I know I can try my best." Eleanor didn't expect the sincerity in his voice to tug at her chest. She turned her attention back to the tablet, but found herself distracted. It wasn't often someone came into her office and showed the raw, unpolished courage to be human amidst chaos. Over the next few days, Thomas' mistakes continued, but so did his little victories. He remembered a coffee Eleanor liked after one meeting, replaced a broken pen without being asked, and even managed to calm an irate client with nothing but honesty and a gentle tone. Each small act chipped away at Eleanor's guarded exterior, yet their dynamic remained fiery. Every blunder Thomas made was met with a sharp comment, every minor success with a subtle, begrudging acknowledgement. And somehow, amidst the chaos, a silent tension started to form, a curious mixture of irritation, admiration, and something else. One afternoon, Eleanor found herself buried in paperwork, head spinning from the pressure. Thomas appeared silently with her, coffee the one she didn't order but somehow needed. "Here," he said softly, placing the cup next to her. "You look like you could use a break." Eleanor looked up. Their eyes met. He was nervous but earnest, and for a fleeting moment, the walls she built around her heart wavered. "You're persistent," she said, voice softer than usual. Thomas smiled awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. "I try." And that's when it happened. The moment neither of them expected. A loud crash outside. Her assistant had dropped a heavy stack of files. Thomas's reflexes kicked in. He darted forward, steadying her chair with his hand, keeping her from toppling over. Heart racing, Eleanor realized she felt something. Gratitude, surprise, attraction? The words wouldn't form yet, but the seed was planted. The workday ended. Thomas collected his things, careful not to stumble on the carpet. Eleanor watched him go, a rare warmth in her chest. She didn't admit it, but she was, thinking about him. The next morning, the office felt unusually tense for Thomas Hale. The memory of yesterday lingered. Eleanor's eyes, the soft acknowledgement, the pulse of something unspoken between them. He shook his head, trying to focus. Maya needed him at home tonight to help with homework, and he couldn't afford distractions. But Eleanor noticed. From the moment he entered the office, she caught him hesitating by the elevator, fumbling with the door, muttering under his breath. A small smirk formed on her lips. "Hale," she called. "Are you going to answer the phone or just stare at it all day?" Thomas jumped. "Yes, ma'am," right away. And just like that, the dance began again. Clumsy mistakes, sharp reprimands, and subtle acts of kindness. The day dragged, papers shuffled, emails pinged. But by mid-afternoon, Eleanor found herself genuinely laughing for the first time in months. Thomas had accidentally spilled coffee on his notes, looked mortified, and then tried to mop it up with his sleeve, creating an even bigger mess. Instead of snapping at him, Eleanor chuckled, shaking her head. "You really do have a talent for chaos." Thomas flushed but couldn't hide a grin. "I call it artistic chaos." That evening, the office emptied except for them. Eleanor stayed late to finalize a report. Thomas lingered too, finishing filing and straightening chairs. The silence between them was heavy, almost electric. Finally, Eleanor spoke. "Hale, do you ever sleep?" He laughed softly. "Not enough. Maya keeps me on my toes." Something in her chest tightened. She realized she cared, more than she had intended, to notice the way he spoke, the way he moved, the way he genuinely cared about a life outside the office. Then the unexpected happened. The elevator stopped abruptly, mid-floor, and the lights flickered. Thomas, already trapped in the metal box, caught Eleanor just as she stumbled. "Easy, easy," he said, steadying her. Their eyes met. This close, so intimate. Thomas noticed details he hadn't before. The way her hair framed her face, the sharp intelligence in her gaze softened by the stress, the subtle way she held herself when frightened. Eleanor's lips parted slightly, her heart racing. She realized she had no one to impress here. No boardroom, no clients, just him. And he was looking at her like she was human, vulnerable, strong, real. Hours passed. They sat side by side, the small elevator cabin amplifying every glance, every sigh. Words weren't necessary. The silence was heavy with meaning. Eventually, Eleanor broke it. Her voice was soft, almost shy. "Hale, I didn't expect to feel this way about anyone in this office." Thomas swallowed. I didn't either, Mom, but I guess some things just happen." Her eyes met his. This time, no walls, no judgment, just recognition. Recognition of mutual respect, admiration, and an unexpected attraction. By the time the elevator jolted back to life, the world outside had changed. They stepped out into the hall, both a little breathless, both aware of the tension that had grown into something undeniable. From that day, things shifted. Eleanor started noticing Thomas's little gestures, how he remembered her coffee preferences, how he stayed late to help, how he handled crises with a quiet calm that contrasted sharply. With his clumsy exterior, Thomas noticed her too, in ways he hadn't before. Her rare laughter, the way she softened around children, the fleeting vulnerability when the day was over. And slowly, the office became more than just a place of work. It became a stage for subtle flirtations, mutual respect, and the building of trust. One afternoon, Eleanor found Thomas struggling with the printer again. She walked over, smirked, and said, "Need a hand?" He looked up, startled. "Ma'am?" She leaned closer. "I think you're trying too hard to impress me. Relax." For the first time, he laughed. Not nervously, not awkwardly, but genuinely. "Relax, with you watching." Eleanor chuckled softly, realizing she didn't want him to stop. Months passed. Office gossip circulated, but neither cared. Their connection was quiet, patient, and strong. Eleanor learned about Maya, about Thomas's struggles, his dreams, his heart. Thomas learned about Eleanor's pressures, her need for control, and the moments of softness she allowed no one to see. The turning point came during the company gala. Eleanor, dressed in a deep red evening gown, spotted Thomas across the room. He looked out of place in a formal suit, fidgeting with his tie. But when he saw her, his face lit up. She realized then that she didn't want to face the room without him by her side. She walked to him, gently took his hand. "Thomas, would you like to dance?" He blinked. "Dancing with me?" "Yes," she said, soft but confident. "Just us." As they moved together, the office chaos, the pressures, the corporate walls, all faded. In that moment, they were just two people, two hearts recognizing each other. By the end of the evening, Eleanor had admitted softly, I like you, more than I thought I would, more than I expected." Thomas smiled, holding her close. "I like you too, and I think I always knew I would." The story concluded not with grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but with the quiet understanding that two imperfect lives had found harmony. A single dad, clumsy and devoted, had stolen the heart of a cold, powerful CEO, and she had allowed herself to be vulnerable in the most unexpected of places, right in the office, where life had first introduced them. From that day, work wasn't just work. It was a place where hearts met, where laughter echoed, and where love, subtle yet fierce, transformed the ordinary into something extraordinary.